We need a power rankings dance so everyone knows it's the start. No, I'm not falling for that again. Welcome back to another week of our Onefootball Power Rankings, where we take the 10 best players from around Europe and put them in a list. Of course, they earned this over the last 5 games. So, if one of your favourite players has had a particularly fantastic weekend, but has some pretty poor form in the last 5, he may not be in there. But before we get into that part of the show, let's take a look at this week's winners and losers. Up first, and the loser of the week is Marseille's goalkeeper Steve Mandanda. He didn't have the best of afternoons against PSG, which involved him almost scoring the most ridiculous own goal with a terrible first touch before getting sent off. Now, he actually made a pretty good save in the second half. However, this save was made 20 yards outside his own box. It was here that he got the red card and his team went on to lose 3-1. Loser of the week, Steve Mandanda. However, onto something a little more positive, and the winner of the week, and it's Isco. After just 18 minutes of first team action in the last 7 weeks, Isco would have been delighted to see Santiago Salah leave the Bernabeu, and incoming was Zinedine Zidane, who actually really favours the Spanish midfielder. He put him straight back into the starting lineup, and Isco repaid the faith with the opening goal in the 2-0 victory over Celta Vigo. So the winner of the week is definitely Isco. Top week for him. So before we move on to this week's power rankings, let's take a quick look at how things stood last week. Bernardo Silva was in at number 9 with Sadio Mane at number 6. Virgil van Dijk was verging on the top 3 in number 4 position, and Raheem Sterling played second fiddle to Lionel Messi. In at number 10, where we always start, is last week's number 2, and it's Raheem Sterling. As I've always mentioned before, if you have an okay week or don't really play that much, you can expect to move down the power rankings with plenty of top performers ready to take your place. This is what happened with Sterling, as he only played half an hour in Manchester City's victory over Swansea. He came on, won a dubious penalty, I'm not quite sure if it was a dive or not, and didn't really have that much of an impact elsewhere, so he drops down to number 10. One of those moving up, and from number 10 to number 9, is Robert Lewandowski. Now, despite only scoring 1 goal in the victory over Mainz, the Pole has been in great form in the last 4 or 5 games. In fact, that goal that he did score means he now has 5 goals in his last 3 Bundesliga appearances. The reason he isn't any higher is because we're going to have to factor in that 3-1 home loss to Liverpool, which saw Bayern go out of the Champions League. Lewandowski didn't have a particularly good game, so he stays towards the bottom reaches of the table. Into number 8, and moving up from 1 place from last week, is actually a player who I think should be in the running for the PFA Player of the Season, and it's Bernardo Silva. He's been brilliant for Manchester City and could not be underestimated what he brings to the team. His effort was shown at the weekend, where he put in so much hard work and richly got the rewards that he deserved. He scored a goal and got the winning goal assist as Manchester City edged their way into the FA Cup semi-finals. Along with this, he also bossed Schalke last week from a midfield position, so he's had a pretty good week all round. Of course, over his last 5, he's also been fantastic, but just not good enough. There are 7 players better than him, of course. And the first of those 7 players better than Bernardo Silva for this week's power rankings is Dusan Tadic. Now, this will actually be quite disappointing for him, as last week he was in number 3. Of course, he's been in scintillating form recently. However, when it comes back to domestic form, Tadic and the rest of the Ajax team were not in their finest form, as they lost 1-0 to AZ Alkmaar. Given the highs of recent weeks, this is probably a game that they should have won. However, Tadic himself was particularly unimpressive, and so he moves down a few in this week's power rankings. If he wants to stay in, he's going to have to buck his ideas up. Last week's number 7 sits in at number 6 this week, and after a fantastic goal against Marseille to open the scoring, it's the French wonder kid Kylian Mbappe. Now, one of Kylian Mbappe's teammates will get the plaudits for the victory in that game, more on him a little bit later, but there were questions asked after the game about Mbappe's celebration. He kind of put his arms across like he normally does, and really just sort of went, yeah, so what? What do you expect? It looks to me that he's really expecting to score every game because he's not really being challenged enough in Ligue A. Am I reading too much into this, or do you think that a potential move will be on the horizon in the summer? I'm going to leave a poll right about here so you guys can have your say whether or not you think Kylian Mbappe will stay at PSG or he'll move on. Oh, f***ing hell. It's like having my own shadow, except he's got bins on. What are you doing? Classic jerking it on camera. Classic Nico. Anyways, into the top 5 now, and a player whose future hangs in the balance, not only with the club that he's currently on loan at, but with his parent club as well. However, with form like this, you can see both of them and many other teams wanting his signature. For James Rodriguez, the hat-trick he scored against Mainz at the weekend means that he now has 4 goals and 2 assists in his last 5 Bundesliga games. That's pretty good form, but if Bayern Munich don't want to keep him, well, Real Madrid will probably have him back. However, I can see him staying long-term at Bayern Munich. Robben and Ribéry are both leaving in the summer, and if they don't go ahead and sign the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi Odoi, they could definitely do with James Rodriguez in there. Just outside the top 3 now in the 4th spot, and it's last week's number 5, Luis Suarez. Now, a lot of credit has to go to Luis Suarez for carving out a career whilst in the shadow of a legend that is Lionel Messi. Many have tried and failed to make anything of a career at Barcelona while the Argentinian's been doing his thing, so you can't sleep on just how well Suarez has done. Of course, over the weekend, Messi's hat-trick against Betis, which we'll get onto a little later, will take all of the headlines, but as for Suarez, he provided an excellent backheel assist for Messi and produced a brilliant solo goal of his own, so a pretty good week for the Uruguayan all round. Okay, so now we come to number 3, and it's Liverpool saviour recently, Sadio Mane. Now, last season you would have said that Mo Salah was the one that Liverpool fans and teammates would turn to in their time of need. However, this year Sadio Mane's goals have seen him carry his team into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, into the Premier League title race, and he's even running for the Golden Boot himself. His goal against Fulham at the weekend was not only brilliant, but it was also his 7th in the last 5 games. As well as this, it also put him firmly on the radar, if reports are to be believed, of Zinedine Zidane, who's looking to bring the Senegalese forward to Real Madrid in the summer. I feel like one of these weeks I want to be like, guys, this is the guy behind Power Rankings. It's Ryan Mansour. 400k Ryan face reveal. So for the final 2, we have a new face for this week's top 10 and a familiar face vying for the number 1 spot. But first off, let's go to Angel Di Maria. Now, I mentioned earlier he'd be taking all the plaudits in PSG's 3-1 win over Marseille, and so rightly deserved. He put on a brilliant assist for Mbappe to open the scoring and then grabbed the other 2 himself, the second of which was a delightful free kick. This means he now has 5 goals in the last 5 games and a few assists to boot, and if you look over the Manchester United defeat for PSG, Di Maria has been in the form of his life. Certainly he's having the best season since he left for Manchester United and then subsequently PSG. On the other hand though, there's Lionel Messi. Now I always say to stay on top at number 1, you're going to have to do something pretty spectacular, and Lionel Messi did just that. His hat-trick against Real Betis was topped off by a nonchalant chip for his 3rd, which saw the rest of the stadium applaud him, even all the home fans supporting Betis. So you're probably thinking, with that sensational display and the unbelievable performances against Lyon and Rayo Vallecano in the last few games, then Messi is certain to stay on top at number 1. Well, before I give you the answer, as a quick reminder to make sure you let me know all your thoughts down below on this week's Power Rankings. Who would you have had in the top 10? Who would you have definitely kicked out? And who makes your top 3? Of course, you can let me know your thoughts down below. Smash the like button whilst you're down there, and also click here or here to check out all of the other videos that we've got going on OneFootball. So to this week's winner, number 1 in our Power Rankings, of course, it's Lionel Messi. That's all from me. I will see you guys next time.